Hello, everybody. How y'all doing?
Hi.
So today, as promised, we are doing a live. And so we wanted to come on and add you guys to the conversation. Aretha and I are going to be working on a project together. Aretha, do you want to go ahead and tell the people what they're going to be getting? Or should we start with introductions, of course? I always jump the gun. Okay.
Introduce.
You go.
Okay. So my name is Aretha Greatrix, and I'm a female. I am a female, but I'm also a filmmaker. And I create stories. I've done things like creating documentaries in the past. I've done web series in the past, and I've also done music videos. I did one for Ger. And so right now I am working on developing a web series pitch for Tell a Story Hive. And so I had this idea kind of around the conversations we've been doing with our the Legacy channel, and just kind of making it more like a docu-series around like body positivity and sexuality and things like that. So I wanted to create a docu-series based on that. So I contacted Ger and asked her if she'd be interested, because I know a lot of our conversations that we've had have stemmed around this, just yours and mine, and like our own personal experiences, and wanting to be very just more confident in who we are as women and our sexualities.
Yes, 100%. So tell, first of all, I mean, because I don't think a lot of people know where you're from, your background. Besides,
okay.
Yeah. Give us a little bit more.
Okay, so I was born and raised in Edmonton, but I'm a member of Quechua First Nation, or Albany Band. So I'm James Bay Cree, so Hudson Bay, James Bay. I was born and raised in Edmonton. I have a background I have a bachelor's degree in communications and professional writing, and I'm currently getting a master's degree in communication and technology. And yeah, I work a lot of places. I also work part-time for Dream Speakers Film Festival, and I also make films, and I'm also a writer and
jack of all trades.
Yeah, I do a lot of things.
She's a boss babe. Yeah, that's the thing, because like nowadays when people ask you what do you do, it's like
to be honest, everything.
Too many things.
Too many things, because the thing is, I was raised by a very strong Indigenous woman. We don't have can't. It's you get it done and you do it somehow. Even if I don't know how to do it, I'll learn how to do it by tomorrow.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Geraldine Carriere. I go by Ger, and I am a author, speaker, and coach. I'm also a business consultant. So what I do is I work with women, whether it's one-on-one in group settings, as well as workshops. And so what I do is I help them to build their pride, presence, and productivity. So essentially what that is to remind them of where they hold their power, how they can control their lives, and get them to make better decisions for themselves, right? So they're never really self-sacrificing. They're never, putting themselves in positions where they don't want to be, right? So I do that through a bunch of different ways. And of course, whether it's image, confidence, asserting yourself, asking for the things that you want in life, that's essentially what I do. And my background is I am originally from Cumberland House, Saskatchewan. I'm Cree. Let me see. I like to say that I was Métis until I was 18, and then I turned status. That's weird, but it happened. And my background is I didn't complete, but that's okay. Sociology and a minor in entrepreneurship. Same thing. I went through Indian communication and arts, so I have a background reported for the news. Lots of documentary, lots of hosts, and of course, doing the stuff that I'm doing now with all of the communities. So it's a wide range, I think, the stuff that we do, and I think us coming together is a beautiful thing because we do a lot of the same things. And so I think overall, the reason why we really mesh together well is that we like to tell stories. That people aren't necessarily giving a platform to, right? So whether it's Indigenous women, empowerment, it's something I feel like we're both very passionate about. Yeah, cool. So let's get to the juice. So we wanted to, like I said, throw the mic, the card,
the conversation, I
there
guess.
You go. See,
so
help me out.
So we will be going. If you're in the comments and we ask you questions, please feel free to give us comments back, and we will go back and forth. And Yeah, I don't know.
Okay, awesome. So this is the first point of the conversation. So when we, Aretha had mentioned, she felt it was very strong, or felt strongly about doing a web series about body sovereignty. So when she threw that word to me, I was like, okay, what does that mean, right? Like, so let's talk about that.
Yeah, because we were like, what does that actually mean? And so finally I actually like Googled it. And so the definition was very
Let's read.
The definition. Wait, did I even grab the definition?
You can pull it up quick enough.
Okay.
You got this, girl.
So yeah, the definition was basically around governing and like ownership and of your own, I guess, thing. Hold on. I got it. Okay. Okay, so the definition said, sovereignty is a full right and power of governing body over itself without any interference from outside sources or bodies. And so for me, like, we talk about sovereignty and like, what does that actually mean for a person? And I think if you look at the way like legal issues have been, if we compare ourselves to governance and governing bodies, like, people are already trying to govern our bodies, right? Like there's laws of like who can have abortions, who can do all these things, right? So we already live in a society where they already are treating our bodies like governing nations that like, oh, you need to be regulated. So for me, it's like, I don't know if it's the right word to use, because I don't know if we want to group ourselves in that discussion, but yeah.
Well, and see, that's why we wanted to have this discussion with you guys. So we're asking you guys, because what we're planning to do with this is we are going to be naming this web series after whatever you guys, suggest, and or inform us that we're using the proper word. Because I mean, we don't want to be using a word that's not going to be representing, the voice that we're trying to share with people, right? So when you hear the word body sovereignty in the comments, what do you guys think of? Like, what's your first initial reaction to that? Is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? Like, what are your feelings around it? What kind of, emotions? What's the mood, the energy behind that?
Because one of the things that I also mentioned and we talked about too is when I talked about like, you hear a lot of conversations about like reclaiming our bodies, reclaiming our sexuality.
Reconciliation,
things like that. And to me, it's like, I don't know if it's really like reclaiming. I feel like it's already there. I feel like for some reason we've been waiting for this permission to happen that we can do these things. Because being sexual and being like proud of our bodies, like that's just something in us to be able to do. But for some reason it's being oppressed. And so how do we get to express it the way we want to express it? How someone might want to express it is going to be different how I want to express it. But from a lot of conversations that we've had recently, it's about tapping into something different and being more vulnerable and being more open to ideas of different ways. Because maybe I just need to build that confidence. And how do you do that?
We got cut off, so we're just going to continue on the conversation. And so, Aretha, did you want to just finish your point off?
Oh yeah, just that. So we talk about like how are we going to be vulnerable? How are we going to express that? And just acknowledging that there are multiple ways that people can express their sexuality, how they can express being positive with their body in different ways. And I think there's multiple ways. And how do we celebrate that? How do we show it? And also, who is doing that work already? Because I think there's a lot of people out there doing that work.
Right. And so, I mean, just kind of coming from an Indigenous perspective, a lot of the work that I'm doing with the women that I'm working with, essentially it's, there seems to be, and this is like women in general, like we all feel shame, guilt, repressed when it comes to sexuality, right? And so, I mean, going back to the conversations that we had previously, which was, in the Indigenous culture, worldview, any man, when you ask him, or there's been conversation, they would say, if you want to look at God, look at a woman, because she is the only thing that can do and be what God does, right? So she is the in between the spirit world and this world, and how a man could never know what a woman would know. So there's this it's very different than the society, the way that it's built right now, which is very patriarchal, which is, the man is the head of the house, he's the decision maker, all that type of stuff. So it's really interesting that the way society has been made to be, which is to oppress women, right? And so Indigenous people specifically have opposite mindsets, which is, the women were the ones that were making the decisions. And so even if we were to think about historically, how were those roles, right? So that those are the type of things we want to discuss in, our web series is, what was acceptable, what wasn't acceptable, and it's reminding a different worldview than it is right now, because I feel like we've gone so far from, what maybe in, holistically, what may be healthy, what may be, and it's just so like, hush, hush, don't talk about that. Like, but then it's interesting because, if you think of what the industries that are flourishing, that are very successful, it most likely is sex, right? So it's just really weird how it's like, well, I don't get to talk about sex, but you do, right? And it's just like, who made up these rules? And why are we still following them, right? So, and especially when it comes to owning your sexuality, being a woman, being a man, why are we following these rules that don't really serve us anymore, right? Like, it's like they're like idealistic things and we still follow them, but it's like, where did they even come from? And is anybody even following them anyways, right? Yeah. So, I mean, when you hear the word body positivity and body sexuality, like, what comes to mind for you?
If I had to say, so I would have to say probably like basically I am my own body and I have choice over my own self. So body sovereignty to me is like, I am who I want to be, and this is me, and I have control over everything that is me, and what I decide to do.
Hi guys, we're back again.
back
Hopefully
again.
3 times is a charm.
Third time?
I can't
Third
talk
time's
today.
a charm?
Can't talk today. It's amazing. All right, beautiful. So we're gonna get back to the conversation. We are getting into another sweet spot, and whenever it cuts off, Aretha and I are sitting here and it's like, someone doesn't want us to speak about this. So, okay. So we were talking about what you feel like body positivity and body sexuality means.
So yeah, I think body positivity is different to many people and what they are willing to express and what they want to express, and just sexuality and just being open. And I think before that we were talking about, when is that not okay? If this is my idea of being body sovereignty, that I am control of my body, this is my body, I can do with it what I want. I mean, it doesn't even matter if you're female or male. Like, there are times when people really want to regulate that. Like, you think of things like assisted suicide, being able to go when you want to go, especially if you have an illness. You think of like abortion laws, right? Like when can you, who cannot have abortion? It's not a big thing in Canada, but I know it's a big thing in the United States. And I think just because there's borders everywhere doesn't mean like it shouldn't be an issue or topic that you talk about. Because you never know, like I might want to live in the States for whatever reason, and I want to, like, that would be important conversations that I would want to have.
Yeah.
And I think just like, when is like, why are always these regulations that happen, and it just seems to be really focused on women.
See, well, and that's the interesting thing. I read a post the other day, which was something on how the government is still sterilizing Indigenous women without their consent, right? So it's like that. There's policies put in place specifically for certain demographics to not be able to procreate, right? They don't. They want us not to do those type of things. So it's like, okay, and then again, it's like birth control, right? Like, it's free for Indigenous people, right?
Yeah.
Or perceived to be. But again, it's like, okay, so there's all of these policies that are put into place, but who is it serving, And so in order for us to reclaim our own bodies, what needs to be done? Like, what type of things that need to be put in place in order for us to have something like that be, successful or accomplished, or, So again, the reason why we're putting on this live is because we want your guys' input. We're putting together a web series, and we just kind of wanted some topics, what you guys want. We want your voice to be included, different topics that you guys are wanting to discuss, and possibly a name, right? Like, do you guys like the name Body Sovereignty? What would you prefer rather than that name, right? So essentially what we're trying to gather or figure out is how for us to reclaim our own bodies, right?
Yeah, so we're basically developing a project idea of like what we're going to have. And this is kind of what I'm thinking even for the pilot episode that I'm going to be pitching. And basically it's about reclaiming our bodies, reclaiming our sexuality, and how do we, who are the people out in the community that are doing the work already, right? So I was talking about how there's like burlesque groups, and I think we talk about, like, we look at burlesque and the body positivity, and I've been to quite a bit of them. I think you know a couple of them, and like interviewing people like that and saying like what work are you doing, like what challenges do you come up with, what are the positive things you're seeing out in the community, and like how do we get people to like have those conversations around that, like are there still like misconceptions that, like, you know, burlesque and like stripping, like which is totally two different things. Yeah. I've been to both. It's they're different.
Absolutely. Well, and that's the thing, right? Because I mean, this day and age, that veil that used to be so like, oh, we don't do this, we don't talk about this. It's not really as bad as it used to be. So it's like, okay, so now we have the platform to be able to talk about this. So we should be doing it in a way that's, like we said, healthy, holistic, and really serving the kind of messages that we want to be putting out, right? So there was something, I lost it. Okay, I want to talk, like, I really want to throw this out to the people who are watching our lives. So what I asked Aretha, you know, what do we need? What kind of questions do you guys want addressed when it comes to bodies, sexualities? Like, what are the things that you think that we should be talking about when it comes to this stuff? Because I mean, we have our ideas, but we also want to hear from you guys, right? And how can we better describe what it is that we're trying to achieve, right? So would you say that we're trying to rewrite what body sovereignty means, or like what do you feel?
I think we just need to shine a platform on all the work that's happening currently, because I think sometimes we think that the work isn't happening, and like, for example, like even burlesque, like I already knew what it was, but I didn't know that there was already like things happening out there, and there's like talks and things like that happen, but like, has it been moving anything forward? So I think it's just more about shining a light and creating the conversation. And that's usually what I try to do with all my documentaries, is shining a light, creating a conversation, starting the conversation off, and then hopefully that past the film, past whatever I'm creating or educating people about, people then go to their friends, their family, their community, and continue the conversations. So I think that's my focus, is to start the conversation.
Right. And again, you know, because of the work that I've been doing with women, a lot of it is women reclaiming their bodies and their sexuality. That's something that's very important to me. You know, masculinity, femininity, you know, rewiring and healing your womb space. Because if we understand that, you know, we as women, that is our portal to everything that we are. And if we are trying to be men and trying to do all that men are doing, you know, there's a void in terms of the masculine in our society right now, which is women are overly, you know, striving. They're all of these things, but we neglect that side of ourselves that should be the other side, right? So again, for me, this web series is it's going to be about, you know, reclaiming, you know, what it is to be a woman, right? So that's the kind of conversations I would like to have. So that's, you know, even that's internally, externally, in relationships, in jobs, and just everyday life is the kind of conversation and the questions that I want answered, if you will, right? Yeah. And also changing the conversation, because I think we talked about this yesterday too. Like, we always seem to focus on all the negative things that happen, but we don't talk about all the positive things that have happened in the community or outcomes that have happened. And like there was those conversations about like, oh, if you're a woman, you're too assertive, you're now a bitch, right? So it's like, well, no, I'm just being assertive. So, oh, is that a masculine energy thing, or is it just you're just being a person? And everyone can be assertive in a way. So I just want to make sure that we're
starting the conversation, kind of laying the foundation, but also I think this is a journey for us as well too, because we're going to learn about ourselves. We talked about, like I said, we were talking about wanting to reach out to like a burlesque group and see like what they do, and like I already identified that if I was to do something like that, I would be so uncomfortable and it would be a very vulnerable experience for me. But maybe that's what I need.
See, well, and that's interesting for me because, I mean, if I think about myself, like I always tell people I'm a boy trapped in a girl's body, right? And that's real for me. Like, I have to try every day to be a girl. Like, there's a reason why I have long hair and it's blonde, and like everything is to make me feel like I'm a girl, right? And so for me, you know, putting myself in those arenas was very important to me, right? Like, because I would always be very sporty and competitive, so I tended to go towards things that were like ballet. I did what is it, burlesque, like a pole dancing class, right? Just to get my mind on like I'm a girl, Aretha. So again, you know, it's but I have to do those things, right? Because when you are a certain way, you attract certain things, right? So because I know that I'm very masculine, I have to try to level myself out and be more feminine. Whereas for other women, that's not even an issue, right? So a lot of people don't, with wild women, for instance, you know, I'm traveling all over the world. People, they hear wild woman and they get all excited. Ooh, she's this sexy, like bush woman, right? And it's like, well, no, not actually, because it's more scary for me to be vulnerable, soft, kind, all those things, nurturing, because my default is to be like, rub some dirt on it, right? And I mean, that's not healthy. I'm like, don't nobody want to love a porcupine, you know? So, yeah. So those are the kind of conversations that we want to have, you know. We really want to shed a light on what is, you know, body sovereignty, what is the new sexuality, and what are the messages that we want to be putting out there, right? So is there anything that I missed?
No, I think that's basically it. Like how do we do that? And like you know, we know what we want to see. And like being a filmmaker, one of the things that I learned is that, you know, I am also an audience member. I want to also produce something that I want to see and learn about and do. And so for me, it's like, okay, so this is what we want, and like we want to see expressed with it, but what actually is out there, and what are people interested in learning about? And
yeah, so for those of you who haven't watched The Vulnerability, it's on our Legacy channel. So we'll put the link in one of the comments here. That way you guys can go check out the Vulnerability page that we had started the conversation there. Give you kind of an idea of, you know, the what am I trying to say?
Just the content of like conversations that we had. And it's not going to be like, so this web series is not going to be like The Vulnerability or anything on the Legacy channel. That's done with like zero budget. Like I edit all the videos. I don't even have that great sound equipment, so it's like, but we do like as much as we can.
But you'll get our personalities.
Yeah, you'll get our personalities and how we are. And we talk a lot about just for me personally, like I talked to the vulnerability thing was like me trying to be vulnerable, which is like letting people know about how I feel about sexuality in my body and myself, and just like even how I approach relationships. Like I'm just very closed and like guarded, and I'm not very open. And so for me, that's like talking about those things was being very vulnerable. So that's why we called it vulnerability.
Well, and
but it gives us a chance to know who we are.
Yeah, absolutely. And so to kind of lead into that, those are some of the topics that I would like to see. Like I would like to go to like a fertility clinic, right? Like stuff that nobody's really talking about. Those are the type of things that I want to be talking about and discussing and sharing with people, because I mean, we need to talk about this stuff, right? It's 2019, for heaven's sakes. You know, we have 5 months left of this year. I'm like, let's go out with a bang, right? So tell us what you guys think. What do you guys want to hear? What do you want us to talk about? Because we're here to serve, and we're here to tell stories from our Indigenous perspective, from all women, actually.
It's just, as Indigenous women, I can only give you an Indigenous perspective. I'm not going to go out there and like give a African American perspective. Like I don't know that.
But we want your perspective. That's the thing.
And if that person wants to share their perspective, we want to talk to you.
Absolutely, yeah. And that's the thing. If you guys have suggestions, who we should talk to, what type of topics that you want us to be talking for this web series, that's what we're asking for here, right?
Yeah. Because with the web series, so Tell a Story Hive, they have a web series thing where you pitch an idea and you submit a proposal and it goes through a jury, and they pick, I think, 20 in Alberta, 20 in BC, and they get $20,000 to then create a web series pilot. And then they pick one from Alberta, one from BC, they get additional money to create the rest of the series. So we hopefully can create a whole series, but if not, we want to create a really good pilot that we can then ask other people to give us money to do the rest of the series. So we want to make sure that what we're talking about is A, in demand, and B, just something real and raw and vulnerable and starting the conversation.
Yeah, so I think we're good. You good?
Yeah.
Did we cover everything?
I think we're good. I don't know if we got many comments.
Yes.
But we will be sharing the video.
What about Indigenous men, or is this all women conversations? Well, see, that's the thing, is I was saying that, you know, a lot of men are like, well, what about us? And that's the thing, is we do want to have those conversations, right? So the fact that you pointed that out to us, and I mean, I got a juicy topic on that, so I'm excited about that one. So thank you.
Yes, thank you. Yes, because I think we need so many diverse perspectives. Like I said, we can only talk about where we come from, but if there are other ones that, you know, you think we should be talking about and bringing into the conversation, yes, let's do it.
And I mean, that's the thing too, right? Because I mean, even working in the news, working on, you know, these lives and stuff, I find a lot of people want to say something, but they kind of have issues with coming on camera, right? So if you know people who are open to doing those type of things, having these type of conversations where we can share it with everybody, it's going to be that much more effective, right? So just keep that in mind when you guys are messaging us. If you guys are, you know, wanting to be on the series yourself, just be prepared that we are going to have you on camera, right? So definitely, yes. That's a thing. That's a real thing.
we will have like an actual set with like an actual camera person and a sound person, an actual production team, and hopefully making it really good and making sure that we're asking the right questions, and also making sure that whatever message or conversation we're trying to start is being started in a good way.
Absolutely, and that goes without saying. You know, this is a safe space. It's positivity, never, you know, anything like that stuff. We want to come from, you know, a really safe setting, and we want to be supportive of each other, right? So again, being respectable of that would be amazing. Like I said, if you guys have topics, put them in the comments. We'll put our link to the Legacy channel. And just before we end, can you tell the people how they can get a hold of you?
Yeah, sure. So you can get a hold of me by my email. You can get a hold of me. My email is pretty simple. It's arethagratrix@gmail.com. It's pretty simple. Yeah, my first and last name.
All socials.
Oh, all social media. So you can follow me or message me at Simply Aretha. Yeah. So everything is at Simply Aretha. So my Instagram. I have Twitter. I do have Snapchat, but I'm not on there very often. Instagram, if you're not following me and I'm not following you, you go into this other thing that I don't see. So make sure you quote this video so I know that it's you, because I do get random weird messages in there that I don't respond to either. And I will not follow you back if you have a private account.
Yes, and what else? I was gonna say something, I lost it already. Anyways, so my stuff is Ger Carriere. I'm on Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, and wildwomanwithin.me website.
Oh,
and yes, pardon?
Twitter
too. So I just wanted to say, share this video, get people into the conversation, like our Legacy page, like our personal pages, and hopefully, we'll be doing an announcement, I guess, whenever we decide what the topics will be, or you'll see the pilot when it comes out. We're excited to be able to film this. And thank you guys so much for joining our lives. I know it was kind of wonky. This is the third video.
Yeah. I think I'm gonna try to like capture it somehow and like put it into one and re-upload it maybe on our YouTube page.
That might be good. Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Yeah.
It was.
Yeah. It was crazy. Internet, technology, you know how it is, the struggle. Okay, well, thank you guys so much for joining again. Lots of love, and we look forward to hearing from you guys. Peace.